stop by my house.
I'm
a
not-
couple of times, like after the last
Where
meeting.
are you?
Have you just had a little help? Yes, we did that today, like Phil Drive, Hopfield House, the blue on the left,
On the left.
like almost the last house.
Almost not, okay. All right, yes, yes.
All right, we're gonna call, we're gonna call this meeting to order. It's the October 17th, 2024 meeting of the Webster Planning Board. And, there's my agenda. Okay, the first order of business is taking attendance. We're gonna go around the room for attendance.
John Jewett.
Teresa Fenimore.
Adam Mock.
Marlo Herrick.
Craig Fournier.
Susan Youngs.
Dean Lampkin.
And Russell Tatro.
Okay, we have a quorum here tonight, so we're in good shape.
Good to go.
Good to go. So let's start off with the conceptual design review for Lauren and Christopher Oliver, who propose to divide map 2, lot 5 on Little Hill Road into 6 lots. This will be the second reading of this proposal. They've been here before. This is mainly for the planning board. It's not a public hearing. Public hearing is more of a formal process. But I will, so the way we're gonna conduct this is they'll present and we'll back and forth with the board. And when we're done, I'll open it up to comments from the public. Is that satisfactory to you? Okay. So you wanna present what you got here?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are you
My name is John LaFave. I'm with Fieldstone Land Consultants. I'm here tonight with the applicant, Mr. Oliver. Looking to more or less build a family compound. We've been here once before. We had shown a conceptual plan with his wishes. We wanted to get some input from the board to see if they had any concerns and address any concerns from the different departments such as DPW and the fire chief and what have you. So at our first meeting, we got some really good input. We took that back, we digested it, and we revised our concept. One of the things that was revised is last time we were here, we had a cul-de-sac proposed at the end of the road. And the reason for that is the regulations ask for either a cul-de-sac or a hammerhead. In conversations with both the fire chief and the DPW, they actually preferred to have the hammerhead. It actually is very beneficial because the hammerhead actually removes about 600 feet of road. It's 600 feet of road more or less for no reason that we don't need. So before we had around 1,900 feet of road, now we have around 1,200 feet of road. So I think it's a really good proposal. At the end of the road, there would be a turnaround with long enough length for a fire engine. We also had considered that the pond location would be best here. This is all preliminary information, so while we would want to put a pond there, we still have to go and do test pits and figure out if, everything's gonna work. So, the desired location would be to have the pond here with a pullover for the fire engine and a dry hydrant. So, it would be, they could come down, fill up, turn around and come back out. And having a dry hydrant there would be very beneficial because as I've heard from a bunch of the neighbors and people in town, there's not a lot of fire suppression means around for them to be able to fill up. So Ryan did meet with the deputy police chief, met with the fire chief, took all that information, gave it to me. I don't have a whole lot more to add, other than we did take a look to see what the proposed driveway would ultimately be.
And we did change the road entrance from.
Yes, yeah, I'll
Okay.
get to that. Good point. So I'm looking at it, I ran a profile of the existing ground, and coming down through, we'd have no problem coming in and running about 8% down to where it flattens out about 2%. So the road would fit like really nice with the land. 8% is not a big number. That's like a great number. In doing that, we would also add a couple parking spaces here at the entrance, because I know that the people are used to customarily turning around there. So we had considered that, so they would come down. The entrance we proposed is right where the existing turnaround is. So it would still function the same, and there would be room right there for someone to park if they wanted to. What else am I missing? I've also grabbed the detail for the road. I know you guys had inquired, what are we gonna do for the road? So we had said it's gonna be 20-foot gravel. It's NHDOT specs, so I had hoped to turn this in with the application, but if you want to pass those around.
Yeah, it's very nice of you.
So it's just basically showing that your standard road is gonna have a layer of gravel, a layer of crushed gravel, and then, you know, pavement's optional. And at this time, we're not looking to have a paved road, we just want a gravel road. But that would be a typical cross-section of the road right there. Anybody else wants to see this, you guys can pass that around. So we believe that we took the information you provided us and applied it to the plan. And I'd like to hear the feedback from the board members as far as, do you like the revisions? We really would like to move forward with some real design work and come back with some real plans.
I'll open it up to comment.
Is this close to the very first plan that you showed us?
It's a lot closer. The road actually came back a bit further behind both of the Fallons in the original.
Down on the corner,
Yeah.
correct, okay.
What was your question?
It looks pretty close to the road that he came in with
Right.
when we first started out.
But he moved it up, right?
Well, it's still,
Yes, right.
no, the very
Okay.
first time he came in.
Oh,
You
okay.
had a
Like
plan.
2 times.
Maybe I
ago,
missed that, yeah,
Right.
okay.
This was even whatever the original, the non,
It was the
Super
very
informal
first
version.
time.
Oh,
I think.
okay, so
When
that-
you came
maybe
in,
I
it showed it, but
Yeah.
it was close to this corner.
yeah.
So evidently you've moved it,
Okay.
and then you've added the pond
Yeah,
is there,
yeah,
yeah.
Thank you.
So a sistrum, he didn't, as far as road, fire chief, I thought they were, you talked about a
Yeah, we
sistrum.
discussed it, and he was kind of saying like, I prefer a 30,000 gallon cistern, and we looked at the cost of that, and then compared that to this, and he was okay with this. You know, but I think we, like you said, once we get some design work and some, do some test pits, we'll know whether it's a viable.
A pond or
Pond,
not.
yeah. That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Ryan also really desired to have a pond out there, thought it would be nice and scenic as well, so he's wanted that, and it serves 2 purposes, so that's the desire, but of course, until you actually get out there, dig test pits and do your design work, you don't know what's really gonna happen, or if that's the exact location of where a pond would be best suited.
Yeah, there was a couple other swales that come down the property that would be alternate locations.
So, yeah, it would be beneficial, as you can see. You know, you have these wetlands right here, which would be able to collect in the pond and feed it too as well.
Do you have any idea where your culverts are gonna be?
No, until we actually get to design. I mean, this is all, we'd like to have this, and we've done enough work to say this looks functionable,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and
Okay.
obviously we have to do grading and figure out drainage and all that stuff, but
Okay.
you have to start somewhere, which we did. I know Ryan came in by himself at one point, had shown a plan, and then we came back again with another plan, and then we came back tonight with yet another plan. So we really want to iron out the input, and
Yeah.
I think that we've come a long way, and
Well, I appreciate your working with the board. I mean, that's kind of really important. And to me, this looks pretty good. I like the detail of your road, I like the input, but I'm speaking for myself now. and that's-
I understand. I mean, that's why we're here, so.
I personally, same thing, you know, you moved it up like we asked. You've, you know, moved it a lot, you got the pond area, hopefully, yeah, it perks to do it. Yeah, I personally think that they've done pretty much what we've asked and are trying to follow all the rules. I'm sure there's a few exceptions here and there, but, to do it right.
Yeah, it was very important to Ryan to be able to come in. You know, he wants to live in this community. He wants to come in here and do everything proper. You know, he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. He just wants to be able to enjoy the land like everybody else. It's a big piece of property.
Right.
You know, it's over 100 acres, and we're just talking about this portion of it where we're working on it, so.
One of the questions that I keep struggling with is everybody seems to disagree on where the Class 6 road starts. I've been told it starts where the gravel starts, which means Klusman's house and Matt and Leah's is right there, are on Class 6. But
Well,
that's the,
as
No.
far as I know, the definition of a class 6 is an abandoned road.
I think it's-
no, it's subject to gates, and it is subject to gates because of the floodplain.
I think that if you actually had a town vote where there was a warrant, where you actually closed it, or abandoned and discontinued it, or closed it subject to gates and bars and had a description of it, there would be a little better information. I don't think any of that's happened. From the RSA, you know, where the town maintains the road to, which is the turnaround. So I would believe that it's a class 5 road until you hit the turnaround where the town's been maintaining it to, then it turns class 6.
So, there's a section in the RSAs that you should be familiar with. It's 674-41, Correction of Building on Streets and Appeals. So it talks about building on private road or class 6. I think you did, just read that over.
Okay.
And make sure you,
Understand it, yeah.
I mean, it's a little confusing. It's not, I mean, I read it
Sure.
sometimes, and I'm not sure I understand it completely, but. And I also think that for each of the houses that you want to put in there, you're gonna have to go before the zoning board of appeals, I think. Again, I need some help with that, but,
Yeah, there was an article from the NHMA about,
This one?
yeah, about subdivisions with private roads and that if it's on a private road, every lot would need a variance because it comes under that RSA.
Okay. Would you mind providing me some information on that
Yeah,
later on?
because that's one of those things
Excellent.
that I think we're also gonna have to check with our own attorney, because NHMA is great and all, but.
Yeah, they're a
it-
great resource. I read a lot
They're a
of
great
articles.
resource, but it's always good to double check with your own attorney before you make any major decision.
Yeah, the way we've always dealt with it, you know, is that, like I said, nothing's been closed by the town. The town has consistently
Well,
maintained that road.
we're not talking about the
We're
Little
talking
Hill
about
Road.
the private.
The
road.
private road that goes
Exactly.
out into the,
But,
yeah, and the other thing about the private road is we would need to sign an agreement, and it would be filed with the county.
right.
And it says that basically you're responsible for the road, and the town is not liable for maintaining it or accidents or anything to do with the road.
Sure.
So that's pretty standard in a lot of towns, you know. We actually have like a boilerplate declaration of responsibilities. It gets recorded with the plan. That's something we would iron out when we submitted the plan,
Yeah,
which basically says that, you know, anybody that purchases the land within here, they're gonna have to share the cost and the burden of the upgrade of that road.
okay.
So I understand that. I just think it's premature to dive into all the legals right now. But
Yeah, I just throw
They
it
have it
in.
on our radar, yeah.
I'd hope to see that in the deeds.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think would be the best place.
Fire
So we
protection,
find out the
police,
registry, yeah.
what would happen with all of that?
Well, we're obligated to provide police and fire for anybody living in town, so that's a given. I mean, that's part of your taxes, right?
Should be.
Should be no different than a driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's weird, I've had towns that want you to put cistern within the subdivisions and even on private roads, and they still use them. I think that the fire department obviously has the right to go down there and use it, I don't know that that's an issue.
Yeah. Any other comments from board members?
I don't think so. I will probably recuse myself when we come to an actual vote, since I am officially listed as an abutter.
Oh, no
Even though I'm
kidding.
not directly an abutter, still yeah. So,
Okay, let's open it up to the public for comments. And I want to, please keep your comments regarding, on this subject, please don't get off the subject.
all these people and no comments?
No
Different
comments.
subjects.
Is this going to remain a private road, or is the town going to take it over?
Our intention is for it to be a private road, and it's being designed as such. Although it is wide enough that if it ever had to become a public road later on in the future, it would obviously have to undergo anything required by the road regulations, which could be pavement and some things. We're not bringing it to that level, but if somebody wanted to in the future, it wouldn't be possible. We're gonna be addressing drainage and, it's gonna be an engineered design. It's gonna be a nice road.
Also, something else I think to consider is that although there's 6 lots, the way that, under my ownership anyway, the way that it's set up, even though we have several families there, it's all still one ownership. So that's part of why, from our perspective, the road is, it just happens to be in the middle of, like, technically it's 6 lots, but functionally for us, it's
Your driveway.
this point.
Well, are you gonna sell those lots to your relatives?
No,
So you're gonna retain-
So they're gonna be all in your name, the
they'll all be
deeds?
in a trust, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I guess the next question I had, you talked about a distillery up there.
I've mentioned
Okay.
that before, yeah.
All right, so now when we start to get into a distillery, public coming in and out, right? That's gonna throw in a little different ball of wax here, as far as a private road
Well,
open to the
wouldn't
public.
when they get to that point, they
Well,
would
we're a
have
little
to be.
premature at the moment.
Yeah, that's
Well,
kind of pre.
I'm just thinking
Well,
ahead.
Yeah.
When they
That's
get to,
all.
when they get to that point, they would
I mean, I'm
have.
happy to speak to it, is that it's a very small affair that, as far as I have intention of, isn't particularly, it's not like there's a big bar in there and random people come visit on it, it's
Well,
more like a truck.
If you had 15, 20 cars a day, that's more than what that road gets. And you got neighbors. And I'm not trying to be I'm just pointing the facts out, down the road.
I understand.
That's what, bottom line, down the road, it's not today.
But that's why it's a continued discussion, and it's something, if we can do it here, we'd enjoy it, it would make it easy to get to work. If we can't, we'll do it somewhere else, or we'll do it. That's not a deal killer for me in terms of this project.
Yeah,
But that would be up to the zoning board and other aspects.
You have a question?
I do. Hi, Maria Cosmic, 123 Little Hill. Nice to meet you. My question is, if this goes forward, is there a plan to widen the road in front of my property? And will we need to take from my property, from State Highway property?
As far as I'm aware, no, there's no need or plan to do so.
Yeah, your property starts here. We have no desire to move the wall or do anything. Anything that's gonna happen is gonna be on our land right here. And as a matter of fact, the town has actually made a turnaround onto this property over the years. It's gotten bigger and bigger, and it's a turnaround on the property, and they have prescriptive rights to it, no argument. So, we already have a big enough area that we can come in with the road. We don't need to go over there.
Yeah. And I asked because there was talk about that last time.
Where
I
exactly?
think that people were concerned that the grading may need to move walls or whatever. That's when we were talking about going
going
down
down.
On the
going
hill.
down the Class 6 road.
Yeah. That's what I thought,
This
okay.
up to here is actually the same width as Little Hill is, even though it goes dirt, measured. But down here, you're right, that is a little bit more narrow, once you get over.
And where is the wall you were talking about? I'm kind of curious.
There's a stone wall in the picture right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can
okay,
see it on
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But the town owns anyway.
But I think if he had
X number
to
of feet.
move his own wall, that's what we would do.
But I don't think any of this.
And actually, the town owns the right to what, 60 feet from the center line each way? What is
Something
the,
like that.
total.
It comes down
60
to,
total?
comes down to the layout that was established at the time. Now, you have road regulations now where you want all your roads to be 60 feet, but they didn't have that concern
Yeah.
when these roads were created back in, 1780 or whatever. And a lot of the layouts you see when you come across them will say, a road from Peter's Mill to Jacob's house being 3 yards wide or something like that and damages, and they'll talk about it. So no, I mean, right now, without the layout, it's physical evidence of the road, which is the stone walls.
Thank you. I have another question. Thank you for.
Yeah, no problem.
Regards to wells, will each home have its own wells, or will there be one main?
It will, and we also have large lots here. So as you can see, this is 10 acres, 5 acres, 5 acres, 89 acres, almost 8 acres, 5.3 acres. So these are like big lots. These aren't like a bunch of clustered homes in a little area. I know Ryan, if you want to speak to it, Ryan has actually done a little bit of research on that as
I
well.
remember y'all's comment from last time, and it got me thinking, how much space do you need to replenish the aquifer? So I actually went and did some analysis on that, and it seems like for 600 gallons, which is what 6 a day, which is what 6 houses would use on average, you need about 7 acres. So, I don't think there should be any real issue from that in terms of depleting the aquifer. I don't know if that helps.
So I think what you say, you get like 15 times what's required to replenish the aquifer with the homes that we're proposing. So,
But it was, yeah, I was like, how is that, I'm curious.
Barbara?
Just that something is niggling at my brain. I'm on the zoning board. And years ago, I remember a lawsuit, and I think it's probably been about 15 or 20, where the judge just parenthetically was talking about you can sign that waiver for a Class 6 road for the people that live there. But what if a visitor is there and the ambulance can't get through? They could sue the town. So the waiver that you would, the hold harmless waiver that you would file with the Merrimack County Registry of Deeds, I think it needs to be tight enough so that even, especially if you're talking distillery, visitors would not be able to
This
sue
is-
the
this
town
is
if you
research,
don't plow
yeah.
the road and we can't get the ambulance through.
so this is research Brian has to do if he wants to achieve
Very
that.
good.
It's just, he brought it out in the open, he just says, hey, that's an interest of mine. At some point, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not a big thing, huge thing, it's just like a more,
It's just something
something he
to
enjoys, something
cross the
he hoped
T.
to do, cross the T. So he was making you guys aware of that, and,
like maple
that's not the main focus here. The main focus here is he really wants to
What's the
homestead here.
difference?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure that this one's covered.
Yeah, well, that'll be
Any other
for Ryan's
comment?
homework.
Any other comments from the public? If not, we'll kind of move on.
I have one more question.
Sure.
What are your plans for the rest of the property?
Primarily, and I think yeah, so it's a small farm, so, like I mentioned last time, I'd like to have a couple of cattle, maybe 4, and some hogs, pigs, but, so there would be there might be a bit of space cleared for pasture land for the cattle, a couple of acres.
In that 89-acre area?
Yeah, and then I would probably be using the pigs within the forest to help me with my forest management plan that we're working on, to kind of keep that forest regenerating and growing.
Have you considered a water system for the homes? Like a artesian well type of water system, instead of having separate wells on each property, which would drain more to your neighbors? Maybe having a water system, or
I've been looking at, and that partly has to do with what we find when we do the test pits, if we can find a spring on the property, because if it is refilling the pond, I mean, I think maybe kind of pulling directly off of that is not out of the question. And, I've got a friend of mine in Canterbury that he does that off of his, and it's worked quite well.
There you go. Alleviate some of your neighbors' concerns.
So it's
Because that is
certainly
a
not out
viable
of the question.
concern. Water up there.
This is a, you know, a big piece of land too. A lot of times when you have water concerns, you're talking about when you're clustering a bunch of homes in an area and they have a serious draw. You know, the scale of this plan at 100 scale, as you can see up here, we're only talking about a piece of this property, it's huge.
Yeah, it takes a bit.
I think that, you know, wells on the large lots, I don't, like Ryan has done his research, I don't think will have an impact.
Just be ready to dig deep.
Yeah.
We're at 800 feet.
How much you were down to?
800.
Are you that far?
And that's one of the strange things though about the aquifers, is
It
sometimes you
changed.
have,
It
you'll have a
doesn't
little
take much to
pocket that's
change.
higher and sometimes lower.
Because yeah,
It varies.
just like woods.
Well, not bad as my house, they're around 1,200, so.
David, you have a comment?
I think she did too, right here.
Oh,
Is the barn still going to be, is the plan for the barn still right off of the, is the barn still up
Can
on
you
top?
point that over?
Okay, and how close is that to, like, Matt and Leah's property?
It's over 400 feet.
Okay.
I actually went over to Matt's house to see and walked with him back through into the property, also to
Right.
see where, if any of this would be visible.
Uh-huh.
And in the
Yeah.
last,
It's 600 feet.
600 feet? Yeah.
600 feet from the barn to the house.
The last time that they cleared it, you know, there was a string of trees that were kind of left, and the road actually goes on the other side of that, so he shouldn't be able to see
Okay.
anything from there.
David?
So obviously, this is what you're wanting, and I'm asking more of a concept of how things are left for anybody in the future. Are you siting houses, particularly at the end, in such a way that the driveway/road would not be able to be continued and the 89 acres further subdivided in the future? Or are you citing them in such a way that maybe somebody a couple generations from now would easily be able to continue it and further subdivide?
We have looked at that. I mean, we still have to do test bits on these properties to confirm the septic locations and to confirm the pond locations. But, I mean, in the future, if anything ever wanted to go through, you know, the desired locations for these houses are off to the side. You could still have a right of way, you could still have the setbacks. I'm sure that he would consider that if he wanted to build these homes.
Yes.
But
The other piece to that is that we don't know enough about the bottom half of the property. And what I mean by that is we know that it's pretty well split in half by that wetland there. But also some soil that is less desirable to build on, right? And so you kind of have to contend with that if you wanted to anyway. So to some extent, it's, at least for now, a nice naturally bound, you know, regardless of what our plans are.
Yeah, it's just, so just to clarify, nothing would prevent future generations from continuing and further subdividing and building more of the development out.
if they would have to
If they
go to the
want.
planning board process, obviously. But, I mean, it's nothing that he's really contended with, he's just.
Yep.
Because they could do that as it stands now, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's not, doesn't lend it more so.
Just asking, because sometimes people will purposely, like, this is where the house is, so you can't go around.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah,
So there's a setback, Ryan,
Yeah.
right here.
Mhm.
There's a setback right here.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't build there, I mean, if the road was to go through, in those areas.
It's not left like that so that we can extend it.
That's fair, just asking.
It was left
Thank
like
you.
that because I was trying to maximize the distance between houses so we didn't have to see each other.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going along with that same idea, our abutment is way down by the river and on Province Road.
Okay.
And that would be, a concern in the future if you plan to go in and subdivide and do stuff down there.
I mean, the other reason it might,
I believe that road was actually formally abandoned and discontinued after the last residence. So, and then, well, there's a couple reference plans that note discontinuance, but when I was actually doing the research on the property, putting it together, I don't know the full details. I just did see a reference.
yeah, I suppose there's
So you
also,
shaking your head, so I'm just saying.
there's also the point that you
Well-
couldn't reconnect with Little Hill, and at some point, it'd be such a long road into there that it'd just become awkward, I think. But,
Right, but,
yeah.
Buddy, could you address that, the survey of the road being a King's Highway? And that it never gets,
I don't really have any
Their property ends where,
input about
Where
that, because I
Province-
don't have any
Province Road is,
reference
right?
knowledge about that, more than the fact that it's
Yeah.
a 3-rod road rather than a 2-rod road.
Yeah, I mean, I think the abutter and us both get access back to the middle of the right of way once
Yeah.
Providence was abandoned, but there's a home currently. Is that yours? Right at the corner?
no, that's.
No, that's Miller's,
but they-
right?
Millers, yeah, so, that's right, so the Millers, their home is there, and so there's not actually a connection between this property and Little Hill on the south side.
Okay.
That's a huge distance too, so I mean, you'd be talking about building another mile of road. This is nothing that you just pull out of your pocket,
Yeah.
just trying to make this work with this family. It's just, that's why it's a private road and it's gravel and what have you. There's no intentions of.
Now, the other thing I will say, and this is not something we as a family have yet worked out the details, but purpose for us as a family is, I know we have to build some so we can live there, but it is conservation. So, I don't know yet what the future holds, because we kind of have to get through this stage, but I imagine the steps we take would primarily be protected rather than the alternative. But I don't know what that looks like.
Any more questions?
I do have a question. It was skirted around the first or second meeting, actually, first meeting here. What are you planning on building for homesteads? I mean, are these gonna be yurts, or are they gonna be a 3,000 square foot house, or?
They're gonna be,
Because that's gonna affect everybody's property value, depending on what's there.
yeah, they'll be, oh, I see, you're actually worried if they're too small?
Yes.
No, I don't think.
Tiny home?
Yeah, no tiny homes. I mean, you might have some that are in the 1,500 to 1,800 square foot range, and then you might have some that are in the 3,000 square foot
Good.
range, so. yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we're gonna move on to the CIP, the capital improvement program. Thank you all for coming.
Before you do, I just want to thank everybody. Your input has all been beneficial to where this plan has come today. Yeah, it's very crucial to where it came today. And our next steps are going to be to design this road formally. And when we do so, you'll be notified once again and see what the grading and everything entails after we've done all of our studies. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you for the board for your time. And we'll see you sometime in the future.
Well, thank you.
Well, we thank you,
For
yeah,
being so cooperative.
yeah.
You hoping actually
I don't think we'll make it do anything for it.
Exactly.
They're still alive.
Oh, that article?
In the article, and because that's one of the things that started out.
I'm all cool with this except for when this all, then I may have a problem.
When what all opens up?
Yeah. That's where,
Oh, yeah.
where I will probably have
Because,
like it.
So she doesn't have
yeah,
to.
right.
Right.
And then sort of the third party review, because we're gonna have something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Is that your only source, is Central Michigan Planning Commission for review of the,
where.
Virginia, I know a lot of people usually have several sources, and they usually have a engineer.
well, wait a minute, town already goes to
Map and yes,
that's right. And I would say those kids,
if
if they
this
wanna catch
is
the school bus, they're gonna come up with
residential, that could be subdivided, and it's not, and only the top part is, the rest of it is.
everybody's got a right
They
to
don't
live.
have it.
They're supposed to be live free and die. New Hampshire's got one of those, and then Holly, Massachusetts at times.
People who get review comments from someone,
And that's on radio.
I know.
and our review, whatever,
Oh, yeah.
several comments on pits, and some of them are like all over the place, because they don't give review calls.
Yeah, so that's the news. That's random, can't read the news. Yeah. Right? What do you
Well, that's the only issue that I can love it. Once it's
And it's amazing, and I don't know, I suppose if you
I know it's water.
That's kind of where the town is, and that's up to the board.
Well, that's what I'm worried about.
just from here to you, to where something is at. And that's.
Yeah, and it's about this driveway.
It's like non-playing, and all of a sudden, bam, then you're playing material. Like when the water stays on top, it drains through. Am I wrong? I mean, we find it, you can have 100 acres, and you think, oh, this is gonna work out great. Before you know it's wet, whatever, you're sinking here, and you're on top here, and nobody's.
Somebody they work with.
I mean, soil. Yeah, but rock is funny. It can be your friend, it can be your enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanna be a
Just currency doing this you know, the hill and yeah, the one that, the one down below, no problem. But they thought it would be this. Yeah, they ran into the granite. So it was, I don't think.
Yeah, no problem.
Rocks.
Yeah, because it was real granite.
At my house, up back, that well's 450 deep, and the rock was down 100.
Are we, this, the
Well,
driveway
down
thing
below,
that's in here, are we
I
gonna
hadn't
talk about
counted
this?
right beside my
Okay,
car.
it's not on the
That
It's not on the
went
agenda
down
because it came after the agenda went out.
that probably got maybe 50 feet.
Because I posted the agenda a while ago.
150
Yeah, I know.
feet.
Because I had.
Crazy,
And I was at
that's just
that,
what I'm trying to say, so no, water to me.
There is somebody did a study.
And I've talked to Emma about the driveway
Yeah.
since that meeting.
Identified these
I don't know where he's thinking about it.
I mean, they have a degree.
Oh, okay.
But
He's here.
as I was saying, as I said to Emmett, you know,
This is just,
Are we ready to continue?
I think we're ready to continue. Everybody's ready to continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, have a good night. I just wanna go through the CIP and finish that off.
Okay, we're gonna,
here's the
I'm trying to get out of here.
That's okay, don't worry. Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yes, that's no problem. Yeah. I'm not, that's.
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
I'll explain.
Okay, let's talk about the CIP.
Oh, boy.
Everybody loves numbers, right?
Right, I brought
Less is
the,
better? No, it's kidding.
so I just wanted to say what my goal was, is to go through the 2025 section of this and just come up with the numbers tonight for our recommendations for the select board. And then we can be done with this, unless there's something else we feel we gotta discuss.
Okay, do you wanna first talk about the changes?
So the big changes from the last one. I should've brought my notes. So the big one, I didn't bring my charts. I am failing horribly. I think the big changes were if we wanted to do something for improving the kitchen area.
Right.
We were talking about the emergency apparatus for the fire engine, and I think we addressed that last time by bringing it up to 112,000 from where it was, and do we still think that's adequate? We still have the PFAS cleanup to consider, and then the transfer station wanted that additional section for the yard waste cleanup. And our payment, if that got approved in Hopkinton, which I don't know if it did, would be about 5 to 10 grand. I think those are all the projects that were new.
It looks pretty level funded here for up to 2029. Is there any room for inflation in there?
So, not really, because we really haven't adjusted the numbers. Because last year we talked about adjusting the numbers, and then we said we were gonna wait and see until this year. And I think last year, the big thing with the transfer station is we moved stuff from the bridge funding into the transfer station, which has made the transfer station fund very flush this year. And whether we wanted to continue doing something like that going forward, transferring some of the bridge money to continue into that, we don't know what the PFAS cleanup's gonna be. No, I think
Oh,
Marlon.
wait,
might
I
have-
think it's 4 million. Nobody minds today.
Nobody minds 4
Yeah, 4
million.
million? What do you think?
I'm
We
sorry,
get 25% of that.
It's 4
To
million.
move dirt around.
You know.
Right now,
That's it,
4
huh?
million.
So 4, that's a million.
Yeah, pretty much.
Easy enough.
Barbara, and,
Yes.
do you have any comments on all of this?
I'm feeling like I'm a little behind. So I'm wondering what the 117,000 is. If that doesn't include the PFAS, that is the yard thing they want to do?
No, we put, the 117,000 was put in to prepare for the
Whoa,
PFAS.
whoa, 170, it says 117 on this.
117 was put in there last year to prepare for the PFAS.
Right.
And it also caught us up on all the other projects they had wanted to do. So we are very set on every project that they had planned in that fund, plus extra for PFAS.
Okay.
And this is just the idea, do we wanna continue funding extra for PFAS? Since we don't know what the town's portion of the loan payments will be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know yet, unless they said anything at the meeting with Hopkinton and what they think they're gonna have to take out a bond for.
They're gonna take a bond out, and you're asking me to remember all this?
I
Because I
know,
was
it's
there,
true.
because I was there, you mean, because it was just 2
Well, we
nights
should have
ago?
brought Dana tonight, that's his
And
job.
Dave just left, I mean, really, he could have done his job, he knows all that stuff really nicely.
That's fair,
Um,
that's fair. we can-
Yeah, yeah, I mean, they've got bond, they have a bond, well, they wanna put a bond in place. There's, I mean, there again, I don't really know what you want me, and I might even be a little confused on how it moves forward. I think you still have to go in front of the town. It has to be as a budget for the town meeting, but there's like 400,000 in grants. I would hope we could see if we can get more. I mean,
That's it?
Teresa was
For
there,
4 million.
right? I mean, right, it was only 400
Yeah.
in the grants.
And grants
And-
are 4 million
and-
for 400.
And
I'm
again.
still surprised we haven't sued New Hampshire DES.
Well, and he was saying that, and I will tell you, I said that in one of our meetings, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'll just kind of be like, at it and see what I'm thinking. And
So what you gotta do?
I think,
Oh,
well, there he is,
speak
there
to
he
the
is.
devil.
More or less, they, you know, again, we are one of the first towns. The state changed their ruling, their rules and regulations, and then we got caught in the middle, in a sense. And so, you know, they went over the plan, cause Dave, what's it, Nebs? Who's who's the engineering company for the, he's got the.
Novus.
Yeah,
Novus.
Novus,
Engineering.
yes. And they, have, I think we would be taking a bond out for 4 million for, incidentals besides the 3.6 that it was gonna take to clean it up. And in the cleanup plan is pretty much taking the membrane, moving it around, putting it amongst stone and, to filter it correctly. I'm not using all the right language, but we're moving dirt, that's what we're doing. And we're letting it filter off and do its thing, and that's where they come up with that kind of money. And some of it has to do that we took in commercial, right, and we took in, and so commercial has different rules than residential PFAS, apparently. Am I saying that correct? Right?
So, because some of the septage was commercial intake instead of just residential intake, the things that were normally done with residential, like turning it into fertilizer to be sprayed on a farm or something, can't be done. It's not allowed to be done. The 3.6-ish million is approximately what they're expecting. The 4 million and change bond that they are expecting to be requesting Hopkinton for is because of, or up to, I should say, is because of the 10% adder to make, like it's the in case something happens, contingency amount. So they're not expecting to need it all, but it is included in that figure. Of the 4 million and change, 2 points of note are that because it's going through New Hampshire DES type process, a portion of it, I believe it's 10%, is forgiven.
Yeah, it's a 400 I said.
So it's about 400-ish
I
grand.
thought that was the grant you were mentioning.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
that's the
forgiveness
grant portion of the bonding through.
It's not forgiven, it's just
NHDES.
coming from another source.
Well, the bond or the bond basically goes through New Hampshire State, and the New Hampshire State forgives that 10% of
That's
the
the
bond.
grant. Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
so that's that grant. There are a few other places that are going to be looked at for future savings.
Okay.
Or I should say for possible savings. For example, we have a lot of crushed glass that may be able to replace needing to get a bunch of the crushed gravel and so on and so forth. So there are possible savings within the construction portion. It's also important to note that this is an engineering estimate. It has not gone out to bid for the contractor in construction yet.
That was my next question. What are they planning to do?
So that should be happening soon. There's also one other very key piece of information that's here, is the cost for the like 4 million cost is including what they expect to be the amount of additional septage/sludge from emptying out their sewer system in Hopkinton to be added into it. And so we're talking total values of the project, but there would also be some form of offset/revenue for the town of Hopkinton paying the transfer station to do that. And the figure that they've been floating as a guesstimate, which he's supposed to know more of at the end of either this week or next week, the figure they've been floating is that that's approximately $1 million worth.
1 million is what it costs for them to update
To get rid of their septage/sludge from their septic, from their sewer system.
So we're going to.
So that may be
on the
$1
hook for
million
3
that's
million?
not put into, or I should say, that may be $1 million in revenue that goes in, so then there's only 3 million left.
That we are splitting with Hopkinton for the septic.
Yes, because any revenue would be split and any costs would be
I'm
split.
sorry,
so-
where's the revenue coming from?
So Hopkinton would be paying the transfer station to put in the septage. Just
Okay.
like anybody else would pay the transfer station to put the septage in.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
just line item to line item, but they would be paying and it would be revenue into the transfer station.
And so it's still going to be the percentage for Webster of that 3 million, not the
Right.
4.
Well, yeah, So it would be 4 million, but 1 million in revenue, so in essence, it's the same.
Plus 400,000 given
Yeah.
for the.
Yeah, but I'm understanding you to say that $1 million of that really belongs to the Hopkinton sewage treatment plant.
Yes,
Okay.
because
And
they, in
3 million
theory,
to
they
clean
pay
up those
about $1 million.
lagoons.
Yes.
How did it get to be so big? Last year we were talking 1.2 million, now it's 3?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and looking at the reports, they apparently only talked about one of the 4 phases for the 1.2 or whatever million. We've gone through phase 1 and 2, which are mostly all of the engineering, and that's been paid out of the operating budget portions. And so now the remaining portion is the, whatever's left, basically. Because it's like a few $100,000 that's been paid so far.
Okay, what are they going to do with the sludge that are we transporting the dirt anywhere? We're just gonna lay it out on the ground?
So there's.
I called it moving it around.
Yeah.
Moving it around, that's what we're doing.
For $3 million.
Basically. So what they're doing is they have a dry section and a wetter section. They're gonna separate out all the dirt. The dry section is basically a buried capped sort of thing. The wet section has, I think it's something like 14 different layers of stuff that goes in to filter it all out. And then below that is a wet catch area that then they do whatever they do with the water and drainage from that.
Okay.
And all of the test pits that are around thankfully can be reused. I think there's one test pit that needs to be added for water management, like observation.
For Novus to test it, yeah.
Right.
the
But
runoff.
that's about it. But yes, most of it is the construction of the many layers of this should filter it good enough to be okay by DES. And they had said at our meeting that DES was really happy with the way that they were approaching it. And trying to keep everything on site, trying to keep everything as minimal as possible, while doing all of the best practices for preservation and monitoring, so. It was also commented that, yes, we were one of the first, and so they were very happy to see that we were doing it the right way, but that many places are up this year with theirs, so many places will be in the same boat after this year's.
I understood there were only like 5 or 6 open septic lagoons left in the state of New Hampshire.
They don't have to be open, they have to have at one point
Correct.
had them.
They have to have the what?
They have to have at one point had them and have high enough PFAS that the new PFAS regulations say it's too high.
Yeah,
That's all it takes.
so they're not
Did you hear
going only.
the new regulations?
Yeah, they're not only going
How are we
after
getting
the
up to
open
the
septic
old
lagoons, they're going after treatment facilities?
Places that had previously been closed, like ours.
Oh. Oh, well, there's plenty of those in New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oh,
There was a couple different bond rates thrown around.
I'm sorry.
There were a couple different bond rates
Yeah.
that were discussed as well. They seem to be leaning towards a 20-year at 3.079.
Like 3 1/4 or something, yeah.
But they also talked about the possibility of a 10-year bond at 2%.
And
So,
I like, personally, I like the 10-year bond because at 2%, it's, you're basically guaranteed that it's always gonna be quote, free money because it's gonna be below inflation.
correct.
Yeah.
But,
But the payment's gotta be higher.
the payment is higher. The doing the quick napkin math, and not accounting for the extra million, it would be something around the lines of, at the 20-year mark, you add a little bit less than the amount that we currently pay for the transfer station into the operating budget portion of the transfer station. So let's just say you double it. And if you're looking at the 10-year plan, it's a little bit more than twice that, so let's just say you triple it for the operating budget, and that accounts for it. So it would be a somewhat sizable pill for Hopkinton to swallow to do the
It's not
10-year
gonna be
plan.
easy for us either.
Well, It's certainly not gonna be easy, but it's not horrific for us like it is for them. Especially with the percentages, which we didn't go into, but I've been putting all of the populations in. Everybody's always used 25% because we're roughly 25%. But it's roughly 25%. We're actually really close to 24% right now.
Yeah, I thought it was per capita, and they have to.
And
look
the
at
agreement is per
state.
capita, even though everybody's always used 25%. So once we get to not just standard operating costs where, okay, it changes by 10, 20 bucks or, $100. Once we get into the millions, it matters. So we'll make sure that we bring that up.
20%?
Okay. Ouch.
I say we just tell them to fight.
You wanna go down on this?
Well, the question was to make sure we
Oh, I
have
don't
enough in that account, right?
Sounds like a lot of tax money.
So it looks
It
like
is.
we're gonna be short quite a bit, but the bond is, the way we're looking at it, is that?
I believe so.
So what's the
so-
one
It
in
isn't
17,
due
then? Is that a
until-
down payment on the bond, is that a?
So the way that it is right now, if they are going for the 4 million at this town meeting, construction starts next year. There's 1% but no payment for that year, 1% but no payment for the second year, which is the 2 years of construction to do it. In theory, it then completes in 2027, so payments start. And of course, payments are front-loaded for amount, so the payments go down over time. So whatever we have in the fund, we can offset for the first few years to keep it more even and in line. And that's kind of the goal, in my mind, of what we would do there. Depending on what we find out from the actual values and ways that some of this works, there may be a couple other ways that we can address this and get out of the bond payments with a lot more upfront. But if it's a 2% 10-year, it probably doesn't make sense to do that, especially with the way interest rates are now.
Okay, everybody petition the feds to drop the interest rates again, please.
That won't change it, or that won't make it better. Actually,
Well,
higher interest rates are
Are
better.
they actually talking bonds they're gonna sell on Wall Street?
It's a bond to New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire.
Oh, that's a different kettle of fish.
As far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, from the way
Okay.
they described it.
It's not like they're going out and doing an IPO, it's not an
No.
IPO, but.
No, it's not the normal bond, and which is one of the reasons why he also said that he believes there's a provision to be able to pay it early too.
Correct.
Which normally a bond you can't do.
Yeah.
So
Might be better.
we'll see what happens.
Yes.
In theory, in a couple more weeks, we have a little bit more information from them. So
Will you share that with us who are not sitting on this board?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, I thought everything else was, pretty reasonable in the CIP.
Well, I think there's a couple areas that might wanna be, do we wanna renovate the kitchen at some point? Do we wanna put money towards?
Yes.
I do, but I don't wanna spend that kind of money.
Well,
I'm a cheap old
I
Yankee.
think the 50,000 was a little over the top
Mm-hmm.
of a quote. I think, we do that in half and then we plan on doing it maybe 5 or 6 years. I don't think we can do it right now with the amount of funding we have, but if we split that fund up and then just save
Save a little each year?
a little each year.
I thought you said there was some of the drawers that had already fallen apart. I mean, how urgent is this? That urgent?
That's a conceptual, isn't it?
You know,
Is that the
I
right
don't
word?
want the
Is that
honest
the right
answer.
word?
I don't think we can really wait that long,
I would
but
think of like 15 grand this year. Isn't that what Dana talked about?
Dana was talking about 15 grand. It's gonna take a little bit to bring that kitchen up, and I think we'd have to get multiple quotes, and then I'd really have to talk to some people about
Materials.
what I want, materials and what we want there.
By the way, did everybody know that this guy used to be cooking in kitchens?
Yeah,
He knows
That-
kitchens.
That's why
He
he
can
wants
help
to
with the
fix.
design.
He knows what it's missing.
Well, I know what'll make it easier going forward.
Yeah.
Especially for the
Yeah.
people who clean it,
It's-
complain about cleaning it all the time.
And durability and long-term use.
Correct.
I mean, if we
Well-
put in wood cabinets, they're not gonna last, you know,
No.
50 years, stainless steel will.
Stainless
I
steel.
like that.
As long
Yeah,
as you
that
take
kitchen
care of
gets a
it.
lot of use, so
It
it's,
does.
I think it's worth putting money into. That's a personal opinion.
Well, how many years can we kick this down the road?
Like, I think
Not
a
knowing.
couple, maybe at most 3 would be reasonable, but I don't think we have enough to do it all at once. I don't think does everybody wanna put it in now?
Can you do it in pieces?
Yeah.
We might be able to. I would have to talk to the person we would have doing the work. I think the biggest priority is getting the cabinets fixed against the wall the drawers are starting to fall out on. And the center console, or the center island has to be addressed too.
Steel table.
Yeah. I just want it taken out. That's my, taken out, just a nice stainless steel table on wheels, put in its place, and that would be
Well, how much money did we put into the CIP for that this year?
nothing.
It's kind of mixed in.
We usually put in town hall, general improvements, 5,000 each year.
Yeah,
I was thinking if we doubled it, we would have enough money in 3 years to probably do something.
but with inflation, it may not be enough.
That's true. That's always
I
true.
like the idea of doing, if there's a way to eat the elephant one bite at a time, I think we should do that.
Yeah, I
Can we
think
do a little this year and a little next year?
that might be a good idea. Do we wanna maybe 7,000 more and try to do it? I think I need to, if we really wanna do it faster, Dana getting quotes was wonderful, but I think I might have to be the one to go get some quotes and talk to people about it,
We
because
have
I
an
know
expert
more,
in this
because I know more
arena.
about kitchen stuff than he does.
Well, I kind of wish we looked at last year's numbers here, because,
Well, the 2024 numbers are right there next to it. So
yeah,
we're
well, I was looking for a comparison to last year. and
Yeah, because we put 5,000 in last year, same thing that we're planning to do so far this
So
year.
far this year. But the bottom line, what was the bottom line last year, what we put in the CIP?
For everything?
Yeah.
So
Are we going
everything
up,
was
going down?
615,000, everything.
I'm sorry,
615,000
last year,
was
okay.
last year.
Whoa,
This year, we're doing 577, but that's based on what we agreed to do last year. for this
so it's
year.
going down.
So
I'm
it's
sorry,
going
I was
down.
thinking we were looking at 2024 as what we're gonna propose for next year's budget.
No, 2025 is,
Gotcha.
What
It's
we're-
going down.
it's going down.
Yeah.
So the school
Well,
gets.
Transportation went down.
So
from
last
17
year,
to
we took the 75 out
6,000
of
off right there.
Emmett's Bridge and culvert improvement.
And put it in the transfer station.
Transfer station.
Why is that not, and I'm not picking on him, cause he got by just fine this year.
Well, I think the reasoning for that last year is I think we have something like $600,000 in bridge and culverts, because we were planning to do
Okay,
clothespin bridge, and now it's being covered 100%.
so
But
it
it has
is, now
extra
it's
money in
being
it.
covered 100%?
Well, it's not.
We pay the engineering, right?
We
Right.
pay engineering,
Right.
everything
Yeah.
else is covered.
Okay,
I don't
But-
think we can do that forever to do that. I think it's just one of those, we had a nice perk last year where we had the money to move around, so we did.
And we will have to be spending the money
Right.
and then get it reimbursed back to the town. Dana still hasn't quite gotten from
Yeah.
DRA the way that they want that handled. So
It could
we
be a
will
little
spend
scary.
out of the fund, at least partially. But the fund in general doesn't need like millions and millions in it like it previously would have. And it's only bridges and culverts.
Right.
And culverts can also come out of road preservation if absolutely needed.
Right.
But
I thought, because when I asked.
so far, it's all come out of bridges and culverts.
Where did you get, and maybe I'm confused, cause I just asked what that number was, and he said it was like 282,000. Is that
What-
something?
what number?
The bridge and culvert number.
Oh, the 600.
Yeah, where do you get the 600?
That was the list that Dana provided us a while ago.
so that probably
That was
paid
the,
for the
well, so we paid
culvert.
for that, that was 130.
I think the 600 is what it was before, because that's what was supposed to go towards Clothespin Bridge.
Yeah,
Since there's been
I think it's more
work
like
towards the
450.
detour, work from White Plains, and most of the culverts in town have all been taken out of it. So it's probably closer to 400-ish.
Yeah, 400, 450 at the moment.
I don't have the figures in front of me, I'm just
So his
guessing.
general budget is not included in this year, correct? His maintenance, the highway budget.
So that's another thing we have to discuss, there's a, right above it, the maintenance and the
Right.
special projects, because I remember we decided to keep those the same last year.
So,
And the board upped those, the select board upped those.
So
Yeah,
I'll
that's requests.
briefly talk about that, since I was part of the people that did it. We moved a lot from what was the road preservation, so there's 3 funds and the general budget
Right.
that go towards road work.
Highway, correct. That
One
seems
is
like
bridges
we're
and
getting-
culverts, which
Yeah.
is only for bridges and culverts. Then there is the road preservation fund, which previously was the prime way and only way that funding was done for managing and dealing with the roads. So when an overlay happened or ditching was done, it came out of that fund. What we did last year is we cut that fund amount in half and put half of it into the operating budget instead. Same amounts, just different location, so that the majority of actual preservation, normal, everyday, every year road work should come out of the budget, not always a fund. The last one is the road construction fund, which is where, for example, when Concord Drive was completely redone, or when Little Hill needs to be redone and dug up and redone, that comes out of that fund. And that fund is the one that we changed amounts on as the select board last year, because he hadn't gotten you all figures for what was planned, required, needed, and he did bring those to us, gave us the plan, and so it was a little bit more than what he said that he needed this year, a little bit less than what he said would be needed next year, and about even for the year after that. So if we kept it at the level that we ended up funding it for the 3 years, it would match the projects that he had provided at the time. I don't remember what the difference is from the CIP recommendation to
was
what
about
we put in it,
$100,000.
but
I just got a question. I
But
think
yes.
we're missing some elements here. We keep going around with numbers, but we don't have balances on these accounts that we can look at. And
Yeah.
then we don't have a project timeline to figure out what we actually need to
So
be
those
putting in
were
this.
at the last.
So 2 things to make decisions on any of this, we really don't have
Yeah.
to make any decisions.
What kind of-
Whether we adjust them or not, because are we gonna meet them, or are we not gonna meet the goals?
So I can go down and get those, but those were here at the last meeting, so I can go grab those if we want them.
I mean, that would make a big difference if there's big projects coming up and we're not putting the right amount in, but we can see what the
Because
balance is.
the
and
only
see what we
new
need to get there.
projects are the, like I said, it's the same old stuff. And the road projects,
I'm just specifically the culvert, we took it out of that, but if there's
Right.
no culvert projects coming up,
Yeah, the thing of it
and the
is,
balance already has.
if you've
400,000
got a
in it,
general
maybe
well, the thing
maintenance,
is, with what Dave was saying, is that we're still gonna be using the balances in that fund, because the way it's gonna have to work with the way the federal government's gonna do it, is we're gonna have to pull money out of the account to pay for the project, and then we're gonna get reimbursed
Yeah,
later.
but that's only engineering, so what's the cost?
Oh, no, that's for
Engineering's
construction.
gonna-
Oh, we gotta upfront
we
the
pay
money
the
to
whole
us back.
thing up front, like, not up front, but we pay the whole thing, and so each time something's happening, we write the check.
Yeah.
And then a month or 2 later, a quarter later, the state and the federal government reimburse us. So then it becomes cyclical, but we have to be able to keep the cash flow going for it to be cyclical.
Yeah, but we have 400,000 in there right now, correct?
No, I don't have the
And I don't
number in
know.
front of me,
That's
but
right, we're missing.
so his regular budget, how much is his regular budget every year? Not counting this year?
The breakdown.
What it was
Breakdown.
plus,
I wanna know what the,
if I'm going off of memory,
See, that's where it gets confusing.
road preservation, I think, was typically 200,000.
right.
And so we took 100,000 and added it to what was previously in the budget and did not change the numbers.
What's the budget? That's
I
the
think-
bottom line I want
Do
to
you
know.
have that in
What is
front
it
of
going
you?
to cost to pay? for
What is
one
it costing to plow snow, do all the general maintenance, cause this is all on top of that, correct?
Correct.
This,
Yes.
how that
This
works,
is,
right.
it's not
So
extra, but it's,
It's
I'm with you.
on top
Because
of
Yes.
the
Before
general
we put it in the
budget.
budget,
Yes.
this was all.
So
it
that
was.
general budget, if you add, if his budget's 300, you're gonna
Right.
add another 375, so that's 670.
Yeah.
675.
That's right, that would be his
So-
real overall.
Yeah,
Now
the
we're
question would be
talking-
how much of preservation got used.
Preservation and road and
But
bridges
in
and
the
culverts.
construction one is the projects, so.
I get all that. What's his regular budget for the year?
Check.
That's what I wanna know.
I
Let's
expect
find
it
what his
changes.
budget is.
I
If you
expect
pull
it
up
changes
the-
every year.
Well, I'm gonna pull up the town report.
Okay,
'cause
that works.
That'll have it.
'Cause
Yeah, cause nothing's changed.
I know when I did the job, you did culverts out of your regular budget, and that's how that all worked.
Normally, that has been the case.
Right.
But because Bridges and Culverts was, I think, named that because White Plains was originally just culverts. So, since then, basically, all the culverts have come out of that, especially since once we knew that the state and the federal government were gonna be doing the reimbursing, it's like, well, we can take it out of there instead of the others and let the others build up more value, so.
I got a question on that. We take it out of a reserve account, we pay the contractor or whatever with it, and then the state reimburses us, it goes back to the general fund, right? So then we have to go back to town meeting and put it back in the reserve, or set it aside for
That's gonna be
the next
So,
year?
so this is all the weird question that Dana's working with DRA on.
Okay.
Which is, once we've paid, and then there's a reimbursement, it can't go back into the fund.
Correct.
But once we get reimbursed, we still need to pay, because we're gonna have to pay more for the next year and so on. So it'll be in this cyclical thing going through basically probably a line item in a budget that's.
Or we set up a revolving fund or something.
Exactly. It's a
It may or may not be
Expendable
allowed
trust
to be a
fund.
revolving fund, but basically it's gonna be a revolving thing.
Yes.
And then at the end of the, like when it's completely done,
So
whatever comes back as
408,000 was the
revenue.
budget last
will-
That's what his budget
will be
is, so
that
you
revenue
add
for
all
that
this
year.
on top of that,
And
you're up
then-
700.
Well, we've got more revenue.
But we have
so
to
there's lower
remember, we
tax.
cut, the select
Okay.
board
Or-
would cut
or we put it
maintenance
back
to
Or we vote to
100,000.
put, well,
and
yeah,
put
so we
100,000
either
in
lower the
budget.
tax or we accept it as overage revenue,
So
goes back into the
the
unassigned
general
fund, and then we
budget
can
is
vote to put it
400
back into
something
some
thousand,
unassigned fund.
correct?
Right,
And then you're gonna add another 200 for road preservation,
no, cause the select board last year
took only 100 of that.
took only 100 of that.
Okay, so what about the,
So we're doing 200 this year.
highway and roads? You give them, you get, so you add that to that 100 too?
So that's the question, so, are we going to, now that they're putting it in the budget, what's that new number gonna look like? That's kinda what we're trying to decide.
Cause I know my valuations on my houses all went up, so it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
now we're talking, you headed upwards with your tax bill.
Unless the rate.
If it's okay with everybody, I'd like to.
Yeah, that's right.
Do the driveway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
So we don't have to sit.
I was hoping you were gonna say.
But this is
I thought-
exciting stuff.
Well, let me go downstairs while you go through the driveway and I'll get the balance.
We got the balances right here. You passed them out last week.
Yeah.
The
Last month.
balances of the reserve accounts?
All the accounts are right on the sheet that you passed out last
Yeah, they
month.
were all at the last meeting. I'll just go get them again.
Sweet, thank you.
Oh. Wait, you're there.
Well, that's the names of them and how much we're putting into it, but it doesn't tell you how much is sitting in the account, correct?
Russ?
Oh, no, that
Is
was,
that-
Oh, no,
But
this is.
you said you're the one who knows what Emmett's
It's not
opinion
labeled,
is
so I
about
didn't
this.
get that.
oh, so Dave was at the select board meeting too, when Emmett was said, Okay.
Are you talking this year or like?
No, we're talking this.
No, we're talking about the
we wanna get
driveway
this
with Mr.
driveway
Yellow
thing
Dog.
done,
Oh.
so.
You and Marlo were both at the meeting when he
And I was there
discussed,
too.
and you were there, he brought up his opinion then.
What's this second column?
And his opinion hasn't changed since that meeting.
Is this what we are proposing to put in, and this is the current? Because there's that
So
17.
they can have their little discussion while we do this.
Yeah,
Can't
We're
we?
gonna do the driveway.
Yeah.
we're gonna do the driveway right now. You wanna tell us what's going on here?
Sure, I
I'm gonna go
certainly
get-
can. Now, I do realize that several members of this board were at the selectmen meeting where I was asked to appear a week
Yeah.
or
There was
so
only-
ago.
actually-
And so.
I was there. Oh, that's right, you were there too.
So, before I just essentially deliver the same spiel, is there any reason that anybody that was already there could save everybody time and energy by sharing your perspective of it, or would you like me just to present? I'm happy to, but
I wasn't there, and I'd sort of like you to do a
Sure.
quick presentation.
So, first off, I'm gonna share some pictures you can pass around if you wouldn't mind. So, my name is Michael Malika. I live on New Hampshire Drive at 127, which is within, a couple of blocks of the end of the cul-de-sac down there. And we've been there 2.5 years. We've recently had our driveway paved. We hired Harrisons. We hired them in part because we understood that they did a lot of work in the Webster area. We felt they knew what was going on, and they gave us a reasonable price bid, so we went with them. When we were working it through with Harrison's last year, they suggested we have some loam to pack on the edges of the driveway once it's laid till it cures. And so I actually asked Emmett for some loam, and he brought it down, and he said, don't forget to make sure you get it permitted. I said, got it, we will absolutely. So I talked to Harrison's about it a year ago, and they said, we take care of all the permitting. Perfect. So it went out of my mind. So then they came this year and did the job for us in, I guess it was mid-September. And again, the permitting thing was out of my mind. I thought it was handled. I was not aware that it could not have been done that way in Webster because the homeowner, the property owner, has to sign for the permit. I wasn't aware of that step. So I never followed up, I never asked. So I myself am a member of the PLVD Commission, and I try to, lead in the community by example a little bit. So when we've done some improvements on the house once we moved in, we added propane, we did some kitchen rewiring, we got the right inspections. We added a deck onto the house, and we took out an old dilapidated dock. We got DES permissions, permit by notifications. So we try to play by the rules and do things right. Here, it was just a total miscommunication. And on top of everything, I would think with all the work that Harrison's does around Webster, that they would understand what was expected in terms of drainage and everything else. So I thought we were golden. I was wrong. Totally missed, the communication on this. So we had Harrison's do the driveway, and Emma came by and he said, what about the permit? And I was like, what? So anyway, we've been trying to rectify this ever since. So this was mid to late September. I don't remember the exact date. It was in the second half of the month. And Emmett said, if we don't get this rectified, he said, I'm gonna have to come and rip up, X number of feet of your driveway. And I said, time out, before you start any ripping, let me go through the process here, and let me try to understand what we could or should have done and where we are. And so the select board was meeting a week or so ago. You folks were a little further out, and so I was asked to come and present at the select board, which I did, essentially having the same conversation. The select board reviewed the situation and said, yeah, but it's a planning board matter, you have to go to the planning board, which, extra step, but I'm more than happy to do it. I'm glad to be talking to the right people. I'm just trying to keep Emmett from ripping up the end of my driveway. So I'm going through the process, and now I'm in a spot where, all right, if you guys said, well, wait a minute, the drainage wasn't done right, Harrison's is already shutting down for the year. So we're gonna be in a situation where I couldn't have it repaired between now and the end of their paving season, which is November 1st anyway. So the bottom line for the situation is, on the photos that I shared around, so the New Hampshire Drive in front of our house is pitched appropriately. It comes down to a couple of inches from center. And so from the center of the street, from the crown to the edge of the road, there's an inch and a half, let's see, I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Yeah, it's an inch and a half from the center, the crown of the road to the edge, over 9 feet. We have 2 trees on either side of the driveway, so you've got root systems underneath. So the natural flow of that driveway wasn't changed when we put the driveway in. It's always been that way. But I do understand that it was, dirt before, it's paved now, and so there's the question of runoff and everything. A different matter. Totally understand that. At the same time, to try to understand if we were going to have a problem here, because with the pitch of the road, we have that inch and a half to the crown to the edge, and then over 9 feet heading towards the house, we have about a 2-inch drop. But it comes to like almost a perfect V, and I tried to show that in the photos there. So what we did is we ran a hose, and then we took 2 5-gallon buckets of water and poured them about 3 to 4 feet from the edge of the road, and all of the water, literally all of the water, went through that V of the crown of the road and how the driveway pitched down to it. And then also the road itself, New Hampshire Drive, is pitching away from our property at a pretty substantial grade. And so the swale next to our house, it collects the water and drains it down towards the road out to the peninsula well. So there's actually quite a bit of drainage there, and when we poured these buckets, none of the water, absolutely none, 0, went onto the road. So understanding that the concern here is in the winter, if there's ice and snow and whatever, it could create an ice problem there, whatever. I'm very respectful of that. On the other hand, there's no evidence that any water's going to collect there. So I'm kind of in a position where I'm looking to say, listen, I know we messed up because I didn't follow up the communication. I thought something was handled. On the other hand, it feels kind of like no harm, no foul, because we didn't create a problem. And if you look at New Hampshire Drive, as you go past our house, there's a dip, if you know where the lockers are, right next door to our, there's a dip there, and I mean, there's an ice skating rink in the road there where there's no drainage, and my wife fell on that. I asked Emmett, can we do anything about that, and he said, no, we'd have to put in a big culvert and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, it's not like we're the ones messing up this otherwise perfect road, and multiple problems don't make a right. I understand that, but it just seems like a bit of overkill given the situation. So I guess I'm looking for a little lenience and understanding.
Well, wasn't your proposal that let's let it sit for the winter, see what happens, see whether it causes trouble?
I said that was the worst case scenario to
Yeah.
the selectmen, because I can't really get it resolved this fall yet anymore. So if you guys aren't willing to say, you know what, it really isn't that bad, then could we watch it for a year and see if it really is a matter?
What did road agent Bean say about it?
I'm sorry?
What did road agent Bean say about your driveway?
So Emmett took a position that he works for you guys, and he's supposed to enforce, and
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of drainage, what did he say?
he said we didn't do it right, which, when I look at it, he's right. We did not do it right, because, I'm sorry?
When did he tell you it wasn't right?
When he realized we'd had the driveway put in. He came by maybe about a week later, doing sometime very late in September into early October. I'm sorry, I don't have the dates in mind, but
A month or so ago?
about a month ago, and then that's when he said, listen, you got 14 days to correct this, and I said, time out, let me at least go through the process to see if it's an issue.
Okay, so when you talked to the contractor about this issue, what was his response?
His response was that they will stand behind us to do whatever is required to make it right. Because I told them I was gonna withhold their check. If,
Absolutely, if
yeah.
they didn't do it right, have to
Right.
fix it, yeah.
So-
Normally, the
Yeah.
process is that Emmett and one member of the planning board, which, I'm sorry, that
that's all right, it's,
normal process is that Emmett and one member of the planning board, which is usually me, go out and look at it.
Mhm.
And I'd like to go out and take a look at it.
Sure.
And you'll see where we go from there.
That's reasonable, yeah.
I mean, I
And
don't,
and if it's a problem, we'll figure out how to make it right and get it set up.
I'm just curious as to why you didn't have them correct it at the time that you found out it was wrong. Why didn't you just tell the contractor that's correct,
I think,
you're wrong?
Because when you lay a driveway,
I understand.
if then you cut it afterwards,
I understand that.
then you'll have a gap in there which, you know, in 5, 10, 20 years,
I
whatever,
understand that.
it'll take in
Well,
water and.
And it's somewhat of a, I'm sorry to say, it's a matter of opinion of the where the water is gonna go. I think what he's asking, and he said on both sides, but when I looked at it, there's a little place that even with a shovel, put a little swale, you can see that the way the crown of the road goes, the water is gonna generally off that, and then the way that, you know, when you come up over the crown, coming from the other direction, you can see that it kind of moves down to that direction. So I think what he's asking is, it's been done, let's see what happens. But to me, and there again, I'm not a scientist on where water's gonna go, but it just looked pretty evident, or it looks to me that it will go. I mean, might suggest you take a shovel and just by the telephone pole, make a little area so the water goes where it was gonna generally go. But that's a suggestion, and that's just what I saw when I went and reviewed it.
Yeah. I appreciate you took the time to
Meeting
come
as
by.
well, and I thought that Emmett was gonna schedule a time to go look at it prior to this meeting. I don't know if he did.
It did not happen.
I went and looked at it, and I was just gonna sit and wait for Emmett's opinion, but,
well, Emmett's gonna be gone for the next 2 weeks.
yeah,
So it would have to wait for the next meeting anyway.
okay. So I didn't really, when the situation was, let it go through the winter, and if he had to have it fixed, it would be in the spring. And I thought that's where, Emmett was going to look and make that determination, or help us make that determination tonight, whether it should be left alone or what to do.
David?
So I just want to hopefully try to clarify a little on process and how and where we are. It was brought to the select board as a code enforcement or ordinance enforcement issue. In many of the cases where we have something similar, it's just because, well, you didn't actually put in a permit, that's the problem, not there's an actual problem with construction. In those cases, it's always been, well, go fill out the permit, and as long as you're doing things the way it's supposed to be and what you have ends up being an approved method, there's nothing to enforce. So basically, as the select board, we said, well, you've already submitted something to the planning board, we're not gonna go down the enforcement road while that's open.
Right.
So I can't speak for the entire select board because we just made the decision to do that. In my opinion, it's that you should go through the normal process you would for a driveway permit and or approval. And if it gets approved, then there's nothing for us as the select board to do.
Yeah, the
If
normal.
it doesn't, then he either needs to change it, or then we end up with an enforcement action.
Yeah, the normal process is that Emmett and one member of the planning board, generally myself, go out and look at these driveways
Yeah.
and make a determination.
And that's perfectly fair, and again, had I been more aware of the process and known that I needed to follow up on the permit, I would have done so and would. The thing that concerns me at this moment is that with where those trees are towards the end of the driveway, I'm not sure how we would be, it's supposed to pitch, I think it's a half an inch a foot or something for the first 8 feet or something, which would be really kind of an unusual lay of the land there with those trees. It'd be somewhat difficult to accomplish. So I guess that's part of why, I'm pushing back on the fact that it wasn't done right. I know it wasn't done right, but I'm not sure how
I think what,
easy
I
it would
think
be
what,
to do.
how this came about is Emmett's doing his job and saying that the permit wasn't done. And then he comes and he brought it to us, but, because, now you're filing the permit, now you'll take a look at it, we looked at it, and then we'll let you know, but
Yeah,
and it's gonna go through the winter, ultimately, I believe, right, don't you?
Sounds right.
I would think it's late now, and
Yeah.
the thing of it is, if you don't have any problem with it
That's
this
right.
winter.
Exactly.
Right, and we.
But if you do have issues with it, then it's out.
Sure.
Like it or not.
Of course, I get it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think so that's what pretty much what the last part was, so I think, sorry, I didn't
But,
interrupt.
like, they should go, you guys look at it.
Yeah. Make a
No
deter-
problem with that.
Make a determination, and-
Yeah.
and you can go over all this stuff when we come out there.
Sure.
I mean, I don't wanna take all the time of everybody here to go
Of
through
course.
this.
No,
This
that's
is-
perfectly fair. I
This
appreciate
is,
that.
generally, we just kinda do it.
Yeah, yeah.
If there's a problem, I'll notify the board, but if there's no problem, why?
We'll move on.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so when you come out, will you be providing that guidance as to whether we're just gonna move on, or we're gonna watch it through the winter, or what should I expect? Because I do want to, if we're gonna reconvene in spring and review this, I'll wanna take some pictures, and, whether I'm right or wrong, I wanna take some pictures.
sure.
I'll be more than happy to use my own sand if it becomes a problem area, just to make sure everybody's safe, but, just if you can help me understand what I should be doing over the next period of time,
Well,
once
yeah,
you
when I
visit.
come out, we can discuss that.
Okay, perfect. Great,
Thank you.
thank you,
Yeah,
folks.
thank you for coming by.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
Have a
your,
good night.
we appreciate your
Patience.
cooperation, patience. and all.
Oh, yeah, you mess up, what are you gonna do, right?
Well, you're not the first one.
Probably not the last.
Happens daily.
Yeah,
I
gonna
can't
say.
believe Harrison didn't ask for a permit before they even started work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody asked
Do
for
you need
me
a
for
phone
a
number
permit
to
when
reach
they
out
started
to
work.
us? to-
Yes, if you could. Well, is it on the permit? Do you have it?
It would be, I
And he's
imagine.
Well, let's
filed.
just, I'll take your number anyway. just in
Sure,
case.
746?
Well, we're on YouTube, so just come and write it down.
Oh, I see.
You might get calls later, hey, who did your driveway? No.
Yeah, I got a bridge to sell.
problem.
There it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
All right, moving on.
Boy, right in front of my house, there's a nice ice sheet every winter.
I think at the end of the day,
Isn't that for ice skating?
controlling water is not the easiest thing to do.
All right, now we have
But
charts.
What else do we have to do on this year?
We're just trying to figure out what we're gonna do for the funding levels, and hopefully we can do that tonight. If we can't, then we'll have to have another meeting for it.
Russ, I'd like to see Emmett's proposal, what he plans to do and how much it's gonna cost for the next year.
Okay. So, I have to go down and print that one, but it's just the chart I gave to the select board. Some of those projects have already been done.
they're too little, why do they make it so little?
So we don't need him in the 2025 CIP, right?
Well, he also didn't list times that he wanted to get those projects done. He has prices, and priorities, but not when they're gonna get done.
Okay.
And he also has more projects he was hoping to have for the CIP next month, I think his plan was. He had another, he's been working with GMI to get a couple more pricings on a couple more roads.
And the 2024
So-
hasn't been dumped in the balances yet, right? It's December.
So we don't have his list of projects, do we?
I have some of his projects.
Yeah, but some of them you said they're already done.
Some of them have been done,
So we don't need to budget for next year, they're already done.
like a couple of them. I'm not sure which ones were done and which ones weren't.
So are we gonna be up and everything next year? I guess that's my, and it's not that I'm trying to be mean or anything, but it's like,
Well, this
you
is.
gotta draw a line here at
This
some
is
point
where-
of what goes and what doesn't.
I know Emmett makes the continued point, and he's correct, that it costs more and more to do the paving.
Yes,
And if we make more upfront, we can get more feed out of it when we do it.
right. I get all that,
Yeah.
but it's like, at some point, you gotta maybe back off a little bit and
Plus they've got.
regroup. You know what? Years ago, it all didn't happen every single year. That's how it worked, and it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't, granted, everything is going up, but everything is going up.
I'm just not sure which project Emmett's planning to do this year yet. So I don't know how much money he needs for this year.
So didn't we see an email about Roby Road within the last few weeks?
I think Roby Road was done though
It's done,
because
it's
of
on
those-
this list.
Yes, it's on that list and it's been done. That's the list I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying some of those projects have been done. He's making another list of those projects that are coming up, but it's not done yet.
Okay.
And I know some of
Continue
those
this-
projects haven't been done. I'm just not sure which project Emmett is planning for this year.
So can we make sure we have that information for the next time?
meeting.
By the next meeting? But he'll be away, but I don't know, what does he
I mean,
need for
he's gonna be
time?
away for a couple, I mean, he's
Well,
already
we're
been
not-
working on it. from
Okay,
what
we're
he's
not trying to
told me.
rush it, but I think the big thing is,
I mean, if we
you don't
wanna
wanna give
hold
too.
off on the
we-
road.
It's not, wait a minute, it's so hard to say the words, because we all know there's repairs that need to be done all around
Right.
the town, because that's just what happens
Correct.
every year, right?
That's bottom line.
And what is and correct me, somebody if I'm wrong, what are we capable of doing? And what is our plan? Because there again, he only has so much time. Now granted, if we went around and paved every road, that would be easy, because you'd use it up in a heartbeat, right? The pavement, right? But he likes to be able to do or the road agent, he likes to be able to ditch it, cover it, prepare it for sections to be done. So I think the big thing that, to be able to work with it and decide with some facts and to be able to help, be able to say, hey, yeah, okay, you're gonna need a little bit more, or, okay, you're gonna be all right at this. We kinda need a plan of what we're hoping to be accomplished for next year
I know
that he'd
Emmett
like to
has
do.
told me he's working on,
But I mean, you know what I mean, it's not
Yeah, I know.
asking for anything, I
Not
don't think,
jumping all over the place.
Right.
Let's do it, finish it, go to the next one.
yeah, I just
And
don't,
like Plains Road, that is like a turnkey now, that looks good, did a good job.
Yeah.
That should be all set. But it's the next part of, so if we're gonna do like the Clothespin Bridge down there, technically, that road, well, I call it Pleasant Street, but it's Detour Road, that could be torn right up, and, I mean, they do it, should just fix that, rather than do a little bit down here, a little over here. Let's focus on one thing, get it over with, and then to the next.
I'd love to
That's
see that.
what I
I'd like
think.
to see that, yeah. I'd like to see that.
Yes, and then like Deer Meadow Road, I mean, obviously, and some of these roads, you could take and maybe just shim them and put that chip seal to them, because after seeing how that is, I think that probably is money for your big, it's good money spent.
well, and cause part of that recommendation that was given to us, that was done for free by who?
Central Planning.
Central Planning, and I'm not sure that, anybody agrees with it, but what they're saying is, you know, where it's cracking and that's where some of your shimming comes in.
Yeah.
They talk about, you know, filling in the cracks.
Right.
And it makes sense, cause the water doesn't get in anything,
Right.
it doesn't move the pavement, so we understand that him as a road agent coming up with a budget is not an easy task, cause
No.
there's a lot of roads and there's a lot of things to do. We would just like to be a little bit more informed, so when we decide where the money, you know, cause they're asking for our recommendations, we understand where it's going and why.
And
that-
one of the problems is it's hard for him to get to these meetings because of the fire meetings.
Right,
So,
you guys-
and that's why we're changing the dates, so that he can
Right.
have an easier time.
I'm just trying to take, so you're finishing a section.
Yes,
is done.
agreed.
Right.
And it's not patch over here, and I'm not knocking him, cause
Nope, not a
he
bit.
does an awesome job. But it would just be, we should figure like that patch of Detour Road, if we're gonna do some road work, then fix the road from that one into the new bridge when it's done. That road is junk, it's just over with, and so rather than doing 200,000 this year on that, maybe we should only be doing like, and I'm just using it for example, save that 100 to, when the time comes to do the whole thing, and do the whole thing.
Well,
And save a little bit of money, so not spend 300 this year, and then all of a sudden, you know, we're
Well,
doing.
that's one of the reasons we put it in the trust fund, is so that we can save over multiple years for a bigger
Yeah,
project.
that's all right,
And
and,
that's one of the things that we're trying to work on by, and that's one of the reasons Dave wants to put some of the stuff in the budget, so we know what is being done every year versus what are the bigger projects.
yeah,
That's coming out of the fund to help sort that out.
but the dumb things.
I'm a little reluctant to tell Emmett what to do.
Yeah, well, when
I
I
don't
had
think we're
it,
telling him what, I don't.
they
I
had
think-
a road committee when I was a road agent, and we all met, we figured out springtime what we were gonna do, and that's how we did it.
Oh, I agree. That's.
That's how we did it.
That's not how Emmett works.
Well, you know what, that's the way it goes. Doesn't matter how you work or how you don't, and I'm not, cause him and I are good buddies, and he worked for me for 15 years. And so it's like, I know how it works, but it's like, as a taxpayer, figuring, you know, we gotta kinda, you don't know what's gonna happen at the school, the county,
Well, I know.
and the dump.
That's a prob, we've had that same problem with Emmett since I've been involved in this stuff, and he just doesn't wanna put it down on paper.
Well, you
But he-
gotta do it, like it or not, that's how it goes. I didn't like doing
We
it,
can't
but I
fund
did.
what we don't know.
Right, and I
You
think
know, and it goes without saying, there's gonna be cracks, we're gonna have to fill them, we can't let it get worse.
I mean, I've
But
been
there
in-
should be, in addition to all of this, that big project, like Detour Road. Okay, so we know this is how
Use it
much
as
is
an example,
preservation, this is how much is chip sealing, this is how much is snow removal or whatever.
I-
But
I
if we are
think-
going to do a big project, in addition to, this is what I think it's gonna cost to fix these cracks, we
Yeah.
need to know about it. We can't fund it if we don't know about it.
Oh, I
That's it,
agree.
you
I've
got a
been-
budget,
I've
you
been
make
in-
your budget up, and when I used to do it, it was down black and white. You knew what you're gonna spend for this, that's how it
Well,
works.
I've been in a number of meetings with Emmett, I've tried to pin him down and say, you know, what is it? You cannot pin him down, he'll say, oh, just give me some more money.
Or
And
he'll
that's
say,
his-
I'll do,
All right,
I'll do
so-
whatever you give me enough money to do. There's always more I could do.
Yeah, so,
it doesn't sound like that's the right answer. When you're hired
No,
by
I mean,
us as the town, I don't know, and I get it, it's not easy, but we all have
I'll
to
tell
budget
you what,
things.
when Barbara Mock was down there, she'd take a
priorities.
spreadsheet out, and this is what you spent here, this is what you spent there, and write down. She had the computer, but she had that spreadsheet in her drawer, pull that, I remember it real well. Pull it open, and she could tell you right then and there, there weren't no
Well, maybe-
10 minutes,
may-
weren't no hour. It's
Well,
like,
that's a good point, maybe we should get that info, I mean, there's all these invoices he submits, right? And I assume on the invoice it tells what this is for, right?
yeah, I used the
So-
black and white.
Yes, so-
Itemize it out.
I mean,
And he
Kind-
probably is, too.
Yes, but
maybe Wendy can help us on that.
Yeah, so-
Maybe he just needs the tools.
That, right.
That's all
As
it
you
is,
sit
the
here,
tools to do
nobody's,
the job.
nobody's the work that's being done that he does is great.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking that away. We're just looking for guidance, and they want us to make a decision and spend people's money. It's just nice, I don't get to, that's what budgeting is, and you're supposed to know a little bit more than we do.
So last year, going through this process, I know you folks did not get much information from Emmett. We did manage to have the list of projects and the estimated prices for those projects that he was saying over the next, was it the top 5 projects or the
Yeah,
next
those
3
were
to
the
5
top
years?
5.
One of the two, that he said that he wanted to work on and what those were. We did get him to bring those to the select board by saying that, well, this is the placeholder value that's in here, which is the low number that you folks had suggested. And then we were able to go to a number that seemed reasonable to get the stuff done that he wanted to quote out and say was done. I
But
do
he
want to
was-
say, though, that while we have made lots of efforts to do this, and we were, I think, successful last year in doing that, I would like you folks, as the CIP, to get that information, because we shouldn't have to be trying to say, well, last minute, we're gonna edit this before we bring it to the public. We'd like to be able to say, we agree with the CIP, because that's what they're recommending, and that is the forward-looking portion. Because otherwise, let's face it, there's no point in having
But
a
Dave, to
CIP.
go off what you're saying, when we were doing this, and then when it came to us over here, there was a little bit of, I don't wanna say upsetness, but there was a little bit of controversy to what was agreed here and over there, so try to stop that, so, 'cause
Right. We just
I was-
wanted to all get
I
here.
wanted, it was part of that, in the sense, well, you said this and this, well, this is, we didn't have the information, and, yeah, and again, stating wonderful job, does great job, it's just, we have to answer to everybody on both sides.
And the capital reserve accounts are for projects, planned
Yes.
projects ahead of time.
Yes.
It shouldn't be a budgetary thing, as you were talking about, Addie, before, there's 200,000 in here, and then that goes every year, and then we put 200,000 in there, and it goes every year. Shouldn't that just be a budget line? If it's literally to fix Detour Road, which may be $1 million,
Well,
in 5
well,
years, we're
it-
going to put $200,000 away to get to the $1 million.
Correct.
So we can do Detour Road right.
That's how it should
So we're
be done.
doing it wrong.
Right, what,
Completely wrong.
what could be done is the system we use for taxes has a list of all the roads where people, everyone's address, their roads there, correct? If a printout was done of the roads and they're graded, kinda like bridges are graded,
We've already done it.
We have a map that way.
I already did it.
and sit him down, say, which of these red line roads would you like to tackle next year?
Why are you shaking your head? It sounds so simple.
I know it does.
Because that's what the RMS was.
Okay.
Not all that long ago, is the planning board or the CIP, I'm guessing it was in a capital reserve, but I'm not 100% sure, that they earmarked so much money for a certain road and it could not be used for anything but that.
That's correct.
That's the way it's.
That's how it was
It
when I
should
was
work.
there. You
Yeah.
got 85,000 for
Yeah.
this piece here to fix, and you go over, that's the way it is.
Now, I remember we had to do that for Deer Meadow Road,
Yeah,
just recently. Within the
Clothespin
last-
Bridge up there, Pond Hill, all of it was, you had to kind of figure out what you were gonna spend on it.
Yep.
That's what you got, and that's how it went.
So I'll point out that the earmarking, as you're calling it, is based on the way that the warrant article is written. If the warrant article is written that it's for this particular road, then it has to be used there.
Yep.
And so if there is funding in there to be used and that road section or the rest of that project isn't going to be done, then now it's stranded there. And so that's why we had moved away from doing earmarking for a particular project so that it could be used towards whichever projects were able to be done instead of, for example, Deer Meadow had a lot sitting there waiting for the Pillsbury Lake Village District to replace a water main that they have now said that they're never going to replace. Thankfully, there are other sections of Deer Meadow that we were able to use the funding on, but otherwise that would just be stuck in the fund, never to be used. And so that's why it was moved away from that, and this is what we intend to do as part of the description of the warrant article, but not listed in the warrant article as an actual earmark, is the way that it has been getting done the past few years.
But can't
So
a
now you're
warrant
right back
article-
to where we were just discussing. You do a little bit here, you do a little bit there,
Yeah.
across town, you do a little bit more, and you don't get nothing done.
He's gaining, but it just, there's so much that needs to be done. All different spots but it's like it's too bad that like now that White Plains, I mean, that is good. That road come out nice and it should last a long time. And so we shouldn't have to worry about too much there. But if you go over to Lake Road, you know, when I was there, I ground that, and when we did it, we only did 2.5-inch single course pavement. Doesn't work. And that's the way it was in '95. I guess that's when we did that somewheres in that area. 90, might have been 98 or whatever. But if he went in there right now, fixed, and I think he's replaced some of the culverts, and just kind of shim that, go over it, it's already had a foot of gravel, it was ground up, and fix that before it goes right completely gone. Little Hill was another one. I mean, that road, we did that section up through, the hill definitely needs to be fixed, but you could probably patch that hill and fix the
He
rest
did
of that
actually.
road.
He patched the
right-
hill this week.
Did he?
Yeah, because he had to cover where he put in culverts and so
Yeah.
he brought enough. They brought
So
enough
did he
stuff.
repave it or just?
No.
No, it's assisted.
But I mean, there's
He just
a
sort of
piece of
covered
road
it
right
and-
there that if you went in and put another coat over it, it's gonna last for.
But I feel like we're not getting anywhere. We're all arguing about, we need to do something better, we need to do something better, but this is the first 2-hour meeting.
Right.
This has been, I've been on the CIP committee, 3 different times, I guess, same issue. We don't have enough information about roads.
Yeah, and so, but we're just talking in circles now, because we're all agreeing.
Right.
We know
we're not
what
making
we're
progress.
getting.
Everybody's saying the same thing.
The warrant article though, where you save money and you say that money is left there because it isn't used for a certain purpose, can a warrant article also be brought up the next year to remove the funds?
Yeah.
That's what,
So
yeah.
I don't
Or
think
move them
that's a
to another
viable
road or
reason
something.
not to use a warrant for certain projects.
I'm more concerned that if we earmark it, then we have Pillsbury Lake breaks again, the dam breaks, and we gotta do something about that road, and the money is dedicated elsewhere. I kinda like the idea of having it a little more fluid, but I want a plan, you know, okay.
I think
That's
the way
all
we're doing,
unforeseen
the way
circumstances,
it's
this
going,
is what
if we
we're gonna
just
do.
had an idea of what, you know, that way, so say like maybe one of these roads are gonna take more than the 200 grand, a
I
little
think if
more
it was
this
just a
year,
more published
but
plan.
cut back next year.
I'd like that.
You know, that's kind of what, that's all I'm saying, is finish a project, if it's over the 200, say 250, but take, next year you only do 150, you know, it's like, so.
Last year you got together with Emmett, right?
Yep.
And was that project, you got something?
So that's where we're trying to do the RMS and then
Yeah.
we got this.
So let's just leave it that way. If you get together with Emmett.
I'll get together with them again, and we'll try again.
We'll try again, yeah.
Yeah.
So when will this come in front of us before it comes in front of the select board?
So
Next
I'm gonna try to get it for next meeting.
meeting.
Okay.
And remember, next meeting, we're holding a public hearing for the zoning amendments that we discussed at the last time. That's gonna be the November public hearing.
Okay.
So that's gonna go first, and then we're gonna be doing CIP. But I don't expect that one to take long, because those zoning amendments are very minor.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna close this meeting up because it's.
We have to approve our minutes of the last meeting.
I don't have to.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from our September meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did read them through, I promise.
Yeah, I read them through too. All right.
And our note taker is so good, it's never wrong.
Your driveway permit's right there.
Thank you. So I briefly wanted to talk about the driveway permit. Thankfully, it sounds like it's already signed, so I don't need to talk about that portion of it. I do have one conceptual question. The permit was to pave existing, the driveway as it was, basically.
Whose
However,
driveway?
Mine.
Okay.
And my driveway is very wide at the bottom. So much so that it is always continually turned around in, including by long trucks with trailers. So my question is, since I am now going to be paving it, would there be an issue because of double access if instead of being wide, I made it a Y within the same location so that I could stick a rock in the center of it so people wouldn't turn around in it?
No. No, I don't think that's such a great idea.
I have a problem with fire apparatus getting up there.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that's
you've
what
got
I
a pretty
was.
steep driveway there.
Well, the point is so that everybody could still access in both directions,
Yeah,
but people wouldn't turn around in the driveway all the time.
No, but getting that turning radius of a big truck.
Yeah.
To take you can't take a
Ah.
90-degree and pinpoint
Right.
it a
Okay.
little, so having that swale or that apron is there for a reason.
I was thinking
You
like
could always
snow
plant
removal.
shrubberies.
Put a tree on top.
Or line the edges as long as it's.
I mean,
within
I'm
the
just saying, if you
measurements, I guess.
pave your driveway to be the normal width of a driveway and then plant normal brush outside of it,
I mean,
it's
there
no
are,
longer a big wide driveway at the end for people
there
to
are
turn
some
around in.
specs in terms of radius.
Yeah, I'm not proposing to break any more specs than are already there. I was just asking about the concept of splitting it up so that not everybody tries to turn into it or get pulled over into it.
I mean, you
Police
could
flag them
put a,
and
si-
ding its
you could
corner.
put a sign up, you know.
Like so many people do. No turning in driveway.
No, I think people spin around at Dingett's Corner before they pick your driveway.
No, usually they blow Dingett's Corner and then try to go, oh, really wanted to go the other way and turn around in my driveway.
How about trespassers?
Or get pulled over
That's
by the
usually
cops
a
for
good one.
blowing Dingett's Corner and they all pull in my driveway.
All right. John, yes?
It really makes no difference. People are stupid, they're gonna do stupid things.
I had one of them in my field.
All right, so we're closing the meeting.
Then you gotta go pull them up. We have a tractor trailer, 58-foot trailer, and you know, come up our hill. Did I tell you this? No. Try to make the corner, you know how you go in there, when a hill's
Hearing, it sounded like water running.
Stuck